Hey, what's up everyone? This is Josh with Movies Please. As you might have seen last week, some fans have gotten together and put up a billboard trying to encourage Marvel Studios to bring back Tony Stark into the MCU. Now, a lot of people are giving these guys grief. They're saying, no, Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr., his time is done in the MCU. He had a great run and then a noble sacrifice. Well, spoiler alert for the MCU, by the way. But if you're watching this, you probably already know Tony Stark sacrificed his life at the end of Avengers Endgame. So, of course, a lot of people are saying, no, don't bring Tony Stark back. He had a good run. Let Robert Downey Jr. enjoy not retirement, but retirement from the MCU, so to speak. I think it's awesome that these guys have come together to try to just show their passion for this franchise. I'm not saying it's a great idea. I'm just saying I think it's cool when fans come together to unite for an effort, not doing anyone any harm. They're just having fun, and I think it's cool again when there's so much just awful stuff going on in the world. It's nice to see fans come together. And plus, I'm sure they've seen how campaigns release the Snyder Cut have been successful. Obviously, this is nothing like the Release the Snyder Cut campaign, but nonetheless, I still think cool effort. I'm not saying whether or not Tony Stark should come back to the MCU, but today I want to take a look at a couple of reasons why I think not only he can, but he will. So let's go over those reasons. First of all, keep in mind AI is nothing new in the MCU. Going back to the first Iron Man in 2008, right from the get-go, the MCU, Tony Stark had an assistant. As you know, this is MCU Marvel Studios 101. Tony Stark had an assistant named Jarvis. Of course, Jarvis was an AI. He had that artificial intelligence. And then, of course, we saw in Avengers Endgame, Jarvis was based on an actual person, the assistant to Tony Stark's dad, Howard. Some people think that Tony Stark's AI assistant, that virtual assistant, was just named after Jarvis. Others think that maybe Tony Stark found a way to, I don't want to say immortalize him, but, again, take that consciousness of that, the actual person and somehow make an AI from that. But even in the MCU's timeline, going back before the events of Iron Man in 2008, keep in mind that AI was still not anything new. As we see in Captain America the Winter Soldier, Zola, that genius assistant, for lack of a better word, to Red Skull, the scientist, he was able to upload his consciousness to those old computers. If he was able to accomplish that all those decades ago, no telling what Iron Man or Tony Stark would be able to accomplish in the MCU's version of 2008. Of course, a couple years later, after Iron Man 2008, we get the Age of Ultron. Ultron, another AI, similar to Jarvis, put in the vibranium body. Ultron wasn't vibranium, but we then flash forward to Jarvis, put in the vibranium, he becomes the Vision. Yeah, you would expect I remember that character since we just had the TV show, right? But in Age of Ultron, we have two instances of this artificial intelligence. But the last thing that comes to my mind as far as examples of AI in the MCU, and I'm sure we could find other examples, there are many movies in that franchise. But if you go to Avengers Endgame, after Tony Stark has sacrificed his life, and then the scene where you take his friends and loved ones, closest loved ones, they're watching what many thought was a recording of Tony Stark talking to them post his death. I don't think that was a recording, though, and a lot of people don't. And this is due to the fact that Tony Stark, that hologram, walks up to Morgan, looks straight at her. There is no way when Tony Stark recorded that he would know Morgan was sitting right there. Let's just say that hologram was a recording of Tony Stark. That would mean someone would have had to watch that and say, okay, Morgan, you need to sit right here. Okay, that didn't happen, obviously, right? Or they had to position Tony Stark's helmet so that maybe they had to position the helmet so that they knew Tony Stark was going to walk up to Morgan. That wasn't going to happen, right? Obviously, these examples I'm giving, they sound ridiculous. So I think it's safe to assume that the hologram did have some sort of artificial intelligence. We can assume, or I assume Tony Stark has created an AI version of himself that I think he's keeping secret because as we saw with Ultron, and Ultron had already had certain parts of Tony Stark's personality as that movie addresses. I think Tony Stark has created an artificial intelligence. His consciousness is in a computer, so to speak. Right now it's secret because you don't want that falling into the wrong hands. So the next big question, assuming this is true, assuming this is actually the case, the big question is, okay, so when is this going to appear? Well, there are a couple of upcoming projects where we could see the return of Tony Stark. First of all, right off the bat, to go to a little side thing here, I don't think he's going to be in Black Widow. I know there's a rumor that they're going to use a deleted scene, they're going to show like a flashback or something, or there was even a theory where Tony Stark would reunite with Natasha in the Soul World. I don't think that's going to happen. If you hadn't seen Endgame, I mean, I don't know. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think, yeah, period. But I do think there's a possibility. We are going to see a Marvel hero interact with Tony Stark's AI. I think one possibility is in the upcoming Ironheart Disney Plus series. Keep in mind, in the comic books, the Ironheart alter ego, Riri, actually has Tony Stark's AI helper at some point. We may even see the return of Tony Stark in some form in the Armor Wars TV series. Both of these series offer so many opportunities for the return of Tony Stark. And I'm not saying in a major role. Let me clarify that. I'm not saying they're going to get Tony Stark, they're going to sign a $100 million paycheck, get Robert Downey Jr. to come back for some big extended arc. I'm not saying that. But a cameo, yes. But asterisk, I do think most people thought that we'd see the return of Steve Rogers in some form in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Didn't happen. It's rumored that Steve Rogers will make an appearance in Captain America 4. So who knows, we might get both of these series, Ironheart and Armor Wars, no Tony Stark, and then Disney announces a movie that features the return of Tony Stark in some form. To try to make the movies more of an event. There's a lot of debate over how much Grace Randolph really knows as far as insider knowledge, but she is really just convinced that AI Tony Stark is on the way. You might remember with the Shang-Chi toys that came out recently, the action figures, there was an AI Tony Stark action figure, and of course a lot of people pointed out, no, that's just a Legends action figure, it's not tied into Shang-Chi in any way. I get that, but Grace Randolph really seems to think that we are seeing steps building toward the return of Tony Stark as an AI form in one way or another. Look, I'm not even going to get into the rumor conspiracy theory that this billboard campaign, deep in the shadows, is Marvel trying to drum up interest for Tony Stark's return, because so many people are against that idea. And I don't know. I think it's a baseless conspiracy theory. But there is a very vocal few who think that this is Marvel trying to open up people's minds toward the idea of Robert Downey Jr. returning to the franchise after Endgame. Heck, he might even show up in a future Spider-Man movie in some form, in some AI form, given that the first Spider-Man movie, talking about Homecoming, had Tony Stark in such a significant role. But you never know. But what say you? Do you want to see Tony Stark return? Do you want to, even if it's just maybe a voice cameo? Maybe his AI is kind of like Jarvis in that, say the new Ironheart. Maybe she just hears, like Tony Stark heard Jarvis instructing him what to do in some cases. Maybe we're going to see a Tony Stark cameo. I don't know. There are so many possibilities. Who knows what the future holds? But what do you want it to hold? What do you want to see? Do you want to see any return of Tony Stark? Do you want to see just maybe a flashback? Maybe you do not want Tony Stark to return in any form. You think the sacrifice would undercut or undermine the sacrifice in Endgame. Let me hear your thoughts. I'm sure a lot of you have them. Let me hear them in the comment section. I look forward to reading those. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much again for watching, guys. Appreciate it. Take care.